Hey everybody, Kevin here from HumboldtCraftworks. Welcome back to another episode of Woodworking with Mr. Kevin. That's me. In today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to glue up some curve raised panels. We're actually going to make the curve raised panels for this project I'm working on, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step, inch by inch, until we've got a curved raised panel. We're just making the panels only. The molding that goes around the outside is for another video. So I'm going to resaw a bunch of pieces up like this. We're going to run them through the planer to 5/30 seconds, and then we're going to glue them together. All right, I'm going to show you how to do that just using tape. And once we got them all taped together and they dry overnight, and then we're going to run them through the damn drum sander. Ugh. I got the worst drum sander in the world, and if you're thinking about buying one, watch this video and you can see how I go about adjusting everything and getting it to work, because mine's just a big pile of poop. My drum sander has no gauges on it like a planer does. You're just basically guessing, and I use calipers the whole time, and I'll explain that whole thing as we're going through it. And here's the actual, one of the actual panels. See, it's actually curved. So it's got poplar in the interior and cherry on the outside. So it's very important that we get this 3/4 of an inch on the money. I'm going to show you how we do that. And then I had a little bit of a glue up snafu on the first set of panels that I ran, and I'll show you how I fixed it and what the problem was. I'll show you what I did to the jig, because I had to add a bunch of stuff to the jig to make sure everything would just come out flat and square and not all tweaked out, which it did. But I think I can fix it. Thanks for subscribing, everybody. We got up to 800 subscribers. I really appreciate everybody out there who's been subscribing. That's awesome. And let's get to the video. Thanks for watching. You have an awesome day. Hee-hee! All right, so here's the last of the face frame and door parts that are in this jig here. The next thing we have to work on are the raised panels, which is this little pile of wood here. Here's the drawing right here, and I'll put a close-up picture of it over here. So what we're going to do next with all this pile of wood here is make all of these raised panels here. I still have to do these lower drawer raised panels there. We're actually going to use the poplar for the interior part of the raised panel, and we're going to put cherry on the outside of all of those panels, and it still takes a pile of cherry this big to do all of this. The stain is this dark. I put a piece of cherry next to this with a stain on it, and this hunk of poplar here, and you couldn't tell the difference. So you'll see the back of the doors will have poplar, but the front will all be cherry. It's a little curved cabinet building secret. If you stain something super dark and you can't tell what the difference is in the grain, then go ahead and cheat. The reason we're using a cherry face and a poplar back is because this is $7 a board foot, and this is like $3.80. Yeah, it's a little cheaper. You gotta save the cherry wood. There's lots of poplar around. It just grows like crazy. All right, everybody, all the resawing is done. So we went from that big pile of 8/4 that you saw before to this. So all these pieces here are going to make up all the 12 raised panels. And then I have to cut out a bunch of 8/4 cherry solid stock to make the curved raised panel molding. There's 80 some odd pieces down here that we resawed up. So it chews up a lot of wood. And now I have to make another jig because my other jig is too narrow and too long. I got an old jig here that I'm going to rip down. And we're going to use this. We're going to make the same kind of sled as we made last time. So we're going to try to take these down to 5/30 seconds, which is almost 1/8 of an inch. Then we'll glue them together. So we have 48 seams to actually glue up, like this. Put them together, glue them up. Hopefully we'll find some that match, and we can book match them, something like that. And I'm going to use strapping tape to glue them up. So here's our pile of wood all planed down to 3/30 seconds of an inch. And now I have to take all of the cherry panels and match the grain here. So we have 48 seams to glue up, just like this today. That'll probably take me most of the day. So we're going to use strapping tape. We're not going to use it this fat. What we're going to do is we're going to pull off 6 or 8 inches and then slice it down the middle and use the slices to glue up the seams. I have a scrap piece of wood down here just to keep the glue manageable so it's not all over my carpet. I don't have that many clamps to glue up all the little skinny boards like this, but you also don't want to use clamps to glue up little skinny boards like this because it takes too damn long when you just pull them together and get that seam nice and tight with using tape. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus down in here so you can see what I'm doing. You don't need to see my ugly mug while I'm doing this. All right, we have our Type On 3, the ultimate wood glue. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to give it the pinky trick. Try to keep this in a line. Like that. I'm using my pinky as a guide. What I should have is a smaller bottle of glue. I'm going to smush it down here. You want everything to be covered in glue, both sides, because this seam here is going to get a lot of stress. I'm going to wipe everything that's on my finger onto this piece here. Just don't glue one side and forget to do the other. you definitely want to make sure everything has glue on it. I'm gonna line up our lines because that's where all this part of the seam looks the best. I'm gonna wipe this down just slightly. All right, we're gonna go so roughly in the middle, tag in, make sure this end's down very well. I'm gonna hold that down and we're gonna pull. And this tape stretches really well, which will pull these two pieces together. And I'm gonna work our way out. So I always start in the middle and I work my way out. Okay, that's down, pull. You can see the glue, how it just kind of pushes right out, right? Just like a clamp. So the reason I use tape and not clamps is because it's much easier and you get a better result. So I'm holding this down, I'm pushing with these fingers here against this wood and pulling that. And it makes the seam nice and tight. All right, now we're gonna lean way over to the very end, lock that in place, hold it down, pull. And see, every time I'm getting my fingers here and I'm pulling this way. I'm gonna wipe this down just a little bit. Here's the tricky part. When you go to flip this over, it's gonna want to collapse upon itself. So make sure you're putting pressure going the other direction the whole entire time. Scrape that off. Wipe that down a little bit. Okay, we're gonna start in the middle, just like we did last time. Make sure you take your time and you make sure everything is as tight as you can get it. Did you see that glue splooge out there? That's good. I want to make sure everything is nice and flush. And there you go, just like that. See, I can move it around, I can manipulate it. It stays flat. Just make sure all these feel good. This is your last chance to make sure that seam's flat within a 32nd of an inch. Yeah, there we go. We'll let that set for 24 hours and tomorrow we'll be gluing up curved raised panels. All right, everybody, well, there you go. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful to somebody. You can use strapping tape or any kind of tape, really, for a clamp. And it's better, faster, and easier to do. And it doesn't cost a whole hell of a lot of money. You buy one clamp for $20 and buy this for like $4.50. And you can clamp up all sorts of panels. All right, we'll see you later. Have an awesome day. Welcome to my pile of poop drum sander. The pile of poop drum sander works sometimes. It's very heavy, very noisy, and the first day I had it, it fell over and broke. It's a Grizzly Geo 458. When you move this handle around, you can see how well it works. It's very, not very square. This belt has a tendency to run off one way or the other. It's kind of a piss poor design. I mean, it works. The longer you use this, the more this moves around because the belt warms up and it gets loose and it starts sliding off. And then you got to adjust these little knobs here with a little Allen wrench and then push it back the other way. So we have 150 on here right now. We have all our boards that we milled to 32nd fat of an eighth, which is 5/32. I have one piece right here that I'm going to use to start to figure out how much to take off using this monster here. And we're going to practice on this one first. So usually what I do is I wind up opening this up until I can slide this piece in and out, right? And it's not touching, right? So if this is rotating, it's not there yet. So we're just gonna keep going until this hits. And there it is. So right here is where that hits and it won't move anymore. So we're gonna loosen that up a little bit, it moves. We bring it up to here and it stops. And there we go. So we're gonna lower that down. I'm gonna pull this out. It makes funny noises when you do that. I'm gonna bring this back to right there and that's where we're gonna start. I have pencil lines on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start on this side over here because this side takes off less over here than it does over here because when it fell over, it broke something and I've tried readjusting it and it still doesn't work. This side is more open than this side is by just a smidge. And now we're going to sand them all. Sanding sucks. Pencil marks on one side. We're gonna pencil mark the other side too, like this. And we're gonna take it over here and run it through this way and then we're gonna flip it over and run it through that way. That way, if it's tapered in any way, we're getting that taper off because over here, and then we're gonna flip it over like this. That's what happens when you have cheap tools. If I had a $20,000 time saver, I wouldn't have these problems, but I'd have no room in here and that'd be the only tool in here. Okay, so this side, I didn't even change this at all. I didn't change the wheel at all. I just stuffed it in there and it sanded all of that line there, almost all the way gone. And Squeaker says then we flip it over and we sand this one and you can tell we almost hit the whole damn thing except for over here. So this side's a little thin still. I can't find my calipers. Anybody see my calipers? Checking both sides right here. So this is set the way we want it to for the first pass. Now I have to take off all the tape on all 60 of these freaking panels that I glued up. Yeah, so I'm gonna be taking the tape off for the next 4 hours, sanding for the next 5 hours, and maybe by 6 o'clock tonight we'll get one in the bag. I'm gonna do a video on and see if we could see how thick of a board we can glue up using strapping tape. Because I bet you I can glue up a piece of 10-quarter and make that seam tight as hell without using a clamp, just using tape. Yeah, so if you don't have thousands of dollars worth of clamps like I do, and you want to glue a couple boards together, you can just use tape like I am right here. And that is perfect right there. Nice and strong. We're gonna sand this down to 1/8 of an inch now. Glue them together, make them 3/4 of an inch of curved raised panel goodness. And there it is. Edward taper hands. So 4 hours of sanding later, and we have all of our panels are all sanded up. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the how to get your thickness correct. These are all supposed to be 1/8 of an inch thick. And what I did is I took 8 together and I spring clamped them together, and I used my calipers, as you can see right here. And I'll put a picture of that right there. It says it's almost a little fat of an inch, just barely, like a 64th fat of an inch. But this is the way I test everything when I'm running them through the sander, because my sander has no way of, you can't tell what the hell it is. You just move it up and measure everything with the frickin' calipers. The more you put together and measure, the more accurate you're gonna be on your overall thickness. So yeah, and glue doesn't matter. I thought it would a long time ago. I was like, oh yeah, I better take off a little more than I need for the glue. No, the glue gets sucked out in these jigs so much that it's not even a factor. It still comes out, whatever you squeeze it together like this, it's how it measures. The next thing I did is I labeled all the pieces. And what we're looking for here is a grain match from top to bottom here. Put the labels over here, boom. You can see the little arrow going up and the grain match. One sits on top of the other. And I'm gonna put a picture of the drawings right here in front of me. So we have all sorts of raised panels, and I want all the grain to kind of carry up from the bottom all the way up. So as woodworkers, we notice things that normal people don't. They don't know why it looks good, it just does. And when you walk into a kitchen where everything's all jumbled up and none of the grain matches, it drives me crazy. And I'm like, oh, where'd you get this? Kmart? Yep. Yeah, well, we bought it at the Home Depot. Yeah, you can tell. When you're sanding 1/8 inch panels, some softer hardwoods like poplar will cup. See how that's cupped? This is the only time that's gonna be a good thing. You wanna put the cup in the right direction, so we're actually bending these like this. And that's the way the cup is, and that's the way we want to put these all together. So when we're laying these out, I'm going to put an X, just like that, on the top of every single one, that the cup is up. So when I glue them together, all the cups will be up, and it'll be easier to bend and stay that way, instead of flipping it over and having to try to force it the other direction. So cupping is kind of a good thing when you're making curved raised panel parts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the jig up so we can put all of these panels in there. We're going to try to do 2 at a time. So I have to put little blocks in there so I can keep everything square, because if it's twisted on the jig any which way, it'll twist the whole panel and it won't work. It's got to be as square as possible. I'm going to practice bagging it up once. I'll show you what the jig looks like so you can see how I'm going to attempt to put these panels in there and bend them. And usually I like to work in the middle of the jig, just because. It just seems like it sucks down more. It's more pressure in the middle, it looks like, than it is on the outsides. That could be wrong, I don't know, I have no idea, but it just seems like the better thing to do is stick them in the middle. All right, here's the jig. So I put some stop blocks out here, and I've got little stop blocks here on the side and over here. I check the ribs and make sure they're fairly square, and they're pretty square. I have my panel right here all shrink wrapped up. It's got poplar on the inside and cherry on the outside. I'm gonna put the labels going the same way. In case this jig is strange in any way, shape, or form, they're both going to be exactly the same. So hopefully what's going to happen now is once I get this in the bag, I'm going to practice vacuuming, bagging it down, and seeing what these panels do. Because right now, they're stiff as a frickin' board. It's actually harder to curve things this way than it is to do it the long way. It doesn't want to bend that way very much. I've done it before, and it worked out fine. If this bag will suck these down and keep them flat, then we're good to go. Okay, here we go. Wish me luck. Yeah, I think it sucked it down pretty good. These little blocks, I wasn't sure if it's going to hold it down or not, but I don't think it's hindering it too much. We're going to glue it up. So always practice. Don't ever think you can put something in a vacuum bag like this without practicing the move first. You got to practice the move, baby. All right, I'm going to get to gluing. We'll see you soon. This didn't actually take long at all. It took about 15 minutes to get both of these panels all buttered up and stuck in there and wrapped up. I'll take a picture and show you what the jig looks like. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm gonna let this sit until tomorrow. Man, that was something else. We'll pull it off the jig and see actually how good it is. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, we're on our second set of panels here, and I'm taking them out of the bag. I had to add more ribs to this bag because I had something happen that I've never had happen before. And I'll try to show you on a close-up over here. Pulled these panels out. You can see they're nicely curved. But I was feeling them like I always do. Always feel everything, make sure it feels kind of good. And there was a weird lump in it. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought I might have had a void in here, which I don't have. But there was definitely a lump. This side looks beautiful. This one right here has a little bit of a lump here. And you can kind of feel it here. This one, I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't really tell. This side right here is just lumpy as all get out. And this side is pretty damn smooth. And what the problem was is this piece here hung over one of these ribs by about 1/2 of an inch. Just 1/2 an inch. I don't know if you can zoom in on that or if whatever will work. But that is lumpy. So I added about 9 more ribs. I've never had that happen ever. And this one I figured, oh, what's gonna happen? They're so small. And it actually, the pressure just sucked that in. Now this side's wavy. So hopefully these will get cut down enough and I can sand this out and make it look smooth enough. You don't see the backside of these because they're actually inside the cabinet. The doors I have yet to do, and I'm glad I figured that out because I took the door front panel and marked it out so I can actually I have ribs everywhere in here now, so it won't be as lumpy. This thing really sucks. I mean, it's so much pressure, you wouldn't think you can bend 3/4 of an inch of 6 pieces and put a whoop-de-doo in between ribs. I didn't think it was possible. If anything, I thought it wouldn't suck it down far enough. Glue. That's how strong glue is. And you can see it comes out on all the sides. So these are about 1/2 inch long on either side and hopefully 1/2 inch wide. So I'm going to square these up on the table saw and joint them down and then cross cut them. That's for another video. And then we'll sand the face and we'll run molding around all of this. I can put these two together, right? And they're fairly tight and look good because they were sitting on a rib. I'll try to zoom in. Can you see that big bloop down there at the bottom? That's where the ribs were. So what I did is I just added more ribs. You see how many ribs are in there now? So right here, everything sits on a rib. Over here, they all sit on a rib. The reason I put so many in here is because of the 2 different panels, the 2 different widths. So the wider ones are gonna go to here, these ones went to here. I've done this a bunch and I've never had that happen. Usually it's under sucking that happens, not over sucking. So that was exciting. You learn something new every day. I'm going to glue the rest of these up. I'll see you in the next round when we pull them out. We'll take a look at them. All right.
Subscribe now.
Ooh, almost barfed on that one. I can't keep them together because I'm stupid. Oh, shit bags. All right, there you go. Come on. Oh, here, there's a fly in here. We're going to get him. Get the fly. They're so annoying. And I'm going to rip it down the middle. Magnets. Holy crap. Today what we're going to do is we're going to do nothing. And do nothing and continue to do nothing until we've done absolutely nothing. I have to sand all these. Shit. I got this message this morning. It says, congratulations, you've won the award for the most irritating YouTube video. Yay! How to undo glue. Hey man, thanks, appreciate it. It's annoying. It's annoying. Stop watching if it's annoying. This guy just commented, help the algorithm out, and we'll show this to more people by being annoyed. Here's my response. Hey, thanks for watching and helping the algorithm. So more people can watch this irritating video. I'm so glad I got to irritate you. May peace and love be with you. You're gonna need it. And I had the sunglasses dude on there. If you want to write me stupid comments like this, go right ahead. All it does is help the algorithm. I don't care. You can say whatever you want. It's a free country. Well, sort of.